The other day I had to go to the hardware store to pick up some salt for the driveway. And I go to pay and they have the tap to pay, right? And I have the Apple Watch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the guy, he's like, whatever, it's like 9:56. And I go, okay. So I just take my watch and I tap it. And he's like, whoa, what's going on here? What's going on here? We got a cyborg. And I'm like, no, it's just my Apple Watch. He's like, everybody, take a look. It's Darth Vader. I'm like, I don't know if he was being serious or not. I was like, what's happening right now?
Okay.
Hi, and welcome to the Superhero Hierarchy. I'm Nathan.
And I'm Chris.
And today we are reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy. We're going to review it on 5 categories: heroes, villains, plot, sound visuals, and fun. We're going to rate each one 1 to 20. Let's start it right off with heroes. What'd you think, Chris?
I think he's a wonderful hero, but he doesn't have the traditional heroic traits.
Yeah, he's got you know what it is? It's because he's wicked fun. Well, this is Star-Lord. I mean, there's a whole team really, but Star-Lord is like the main protagonist, obviously.
And the story follows him.
Yeah, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Why him? Shouldn't the main character be like Gamora? Doesn't she have more kind of going on, arguably?
You can absolutely argue that. You can even absolutely go further than that and say she has the one who actually has thoughts and kind of has like an actual like plan of how she wants to usurp Thanos, more so Ronan, really. But
yeah, it's kind of like Star-Lord is just kind of along for the ride, just doing whatever he thinks.
Oh, you know what I just thought of? He's probably the audience's point of view. We're just hanging out, just going along with our friends.
Yeah, I kind of thought that, like, if I had to, I mean, you need somebody like that, but like, wouldn't he kind of already know what's going on?
You would think so.
But, I mean, whatever, it's fine. He's hysterical, and I think that's but he's like a brave hysterical.
He makes it a point to be, his actions are brave, but then he makes it a point to kind of call out his own bravery, which kind of defeats the purpose.
What about, so I love Rocket. I love like his kind of energy and his sarcasm. It's like got a Tony Stark Iron Man thing going on to it.
Sure.
And then obviously what Drax brings to it is that like deadpan humor.
Oh, which he is phenomenal at, and which is it really just kind of complements the other characters going on. It's like that family bickering, and that's a family that we want to keep hanging out with.
And then the other thing that I liked was, you wouldn't think this because he's a talking tree, but Groot is like the emotional center of the group.
He is. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but he actually did have me tearing up toward the end of the movie. I never cried over a tree.
I know, seriously. Okay, what do you give heroes 1 to 20?
I'm going to give a 16.
I will give them a 19. They're just about perfect in my view.
No, I'll stick with 16 only because they are like haphazard type of heroes. But,
they are. The villains. For villains, we have mostly Ronan with a little bit of Nebula, and then some various Thanos has a cameo.
Well, his first speaking appearance.
I gotta be honest with you. I know people don't like the villains in this, but I think they're great. I think they're fun comic book villains.
They match our heroes in the story.
Yes.
Really appropriately. You have the shadow of Thanos looming, but not like overtaking like Ronan's place as the hero or the villain quote unquote of the movie.
And the intro. Can I just touch on the intro for Ronan, where he comes out of like blue goo and then like kills a dude with a hammer, and you're like, this is just a bad dude. That's just like all around really bad dude.
Yeah, they set him up to be they set up his personality wonderfully.
Yeah.
Right? He wakes up out of hypersleep and then uses a sledgehammer.
Yeah, I don't really know what's going on there, and they're like painting him, and it's just strange imagery.
It's very like ritualistic.
It's like out of a different movie.
Religion. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It's strange. But you get that. Yeah. Not to complain about like religious, but you get like the wild, like fanatic religious vibe from him.
which he was called a fanatic.
Yeah, exactly. Nebula, she's great. She just runs around like shouting orders and just,
like to hit people, and she does. She just punches people around. That's it. She's a great, like, henchman almost. But
yeah, she's like a total henchman.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. And then she's obviously got the connection with Gamora, so it kind of gives her some depth. All right, would you give villains 1 to 20?
15.
15. I'm right there with you. I give them a 15. They're good. They fill the void, but they're not perfect. I'll give the 10-second plot summary. They find an Infinity Stone. Everybody plays hot potato with the Infinity Stone until they try and blow up Xandar. Can I just make a comment about Xandar before we go too deep into this?
Sure.
Are Xandarians purple or blue, or are they humans? I don't really understand what's going on there.
You know what? I took it as it's a cornucopia of peace and harmony.
There's like all kinds of different looking things. You're right. It's just like an amalgamation.
Nathan, you could almost say it's almost like an Earth. There are different, just different people, things like that. Whereas now we're in space, we're talking about space Earth maybe, and they just have weird different types of humanoid.
So yeah, because they're basically just humans, even though they act like humans are different.
Yeah, but they're purple or pink. They can just be
or just regularly human colored. It's so strange. All right, so I like the plot just because it's like we're gonna go here and we're gonna go here, and it's so simple and makes perfect sense, and they don't try and do anything too much with it.
No, and the plot just seems to be. The characters are just going through their journey, and that's how they're going from, another to another.
It just hit. Yeah, exactly. You're right. It just hit me. It's like if you watch like a Star Wars The Force Awakens or something, it feels like forced. This just feels like naturally.
Well, yeah. Look how the beginning started. He was just going to get this orb. He wanted to sell it to make his money, and then it led him on to this type of adventure. When you get like caught up on Xandar, and then it takes you from there to there. I like their planet hopping. It was just a fun, like, space romp. It really was.
I loved all the different, like, random planets and just different things you see. Like, you're never bogged down in the same thing over and over again. Like, very imaginative.
Yep.
All right, so what would you give... why don't we just touch on it while we're on it? Like, the ending is, I think... maybe one of the best endings of any Marvel movie there is. I mean, talk about subverting expectations. You're expecting the showdown with the villain at the end, and instead they have a dance-off. And you're like, I remember the first time I saw that, I'm like, so this movie is just a joke. But...
it is. Hold on. It is, but it isn't. I love how they kind of intertwine the humor with the actual action, because look at how that was just supposed to be a distraction. And then look at the actual action that occurred. And then it did kind of set it up almost not to be like an epic, but it did have some sort of like nice, forceful ending where they just kind of, when they like took out the bad guy, when they took out the villain.
What I was going to say is this is the perfect harmony of the humor action. So the action isn't undercut by the humor. It's complemented. Where a lot of the movies are like, oh, we're going to make a joke in the middle of our emotional scene. This is like, the point is these people are like scarred and have to make a joke during the emotional scene.
They did. They called the villain a turd burglar at the end of the movie. I mean, and it really just fit with how his whole charisma and personality is. And like, all he wanted to do is kind of what they wanted to do. They wanted to kick his ass. And what did they do? Blow him almost halfway.
I know. It's great. It's perfect. And then the I am Groot, or we are Groot scene at the end. Oh,
yep.
It's unbelievable.
Just swapping out one word from I to we, that was pretty impactful, I have to say. Like, talk about, and what it all came down to was their friendship, and then their
it's kind of funny. Exactly, it's kind of funny in the in the joke of a movie. How like the emotions are probably the highest in any movie. It's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
What would you give the plot? 1 to 20.
So for the plot, I thought of this after the first time I saw this movie up until now. And how many years is that later? I give the plot a 20.
Yeah.
20 out of 20. I thought it was absolutely perfect.
20 out of 20. I agree with you 100%. 20 out of 20. It's a perfect plot. It's a perfect plot. It doesn't waste any time anywhere. It just moves along. It's
wonderful.
Excellent.
And it's great to see over and over again too.
All right. So sound and visuals. So we got to kind of separate these a little bit. We kind of touched on the visuals. So I'll do those first because I know where we're going with sound. So the visuals, I loved it. You've got all different things. Your eyes never get bored. It's a totally different world. Everything's totally unexpected. They go to nowhere. They go to Xandar. I mean, they go to the
prison.
Kiln. Yeah, the prison. Even like the design of the ships are excellent. Like, it's so good. Or the scene, you know what really kind of spoke to me is the scene where the Nova Corps interlocks and they push up against the
that was cool.
The dark aster. Grid. Yeah, it's so cool. And then they blow up like you're just seeing something that they don't do in any other movies. It's excellent. Like
the colors were great. I loved all the colors. How nowhere was that hazy green. I liked how the Power Stone happened to be purple. Like how they mixed that purple in. With all the other surroundings. I really like that. I love the opening scene. Like that brought almost, because the movie is going to end up being silly, that brought almost like a very serious, like gritty. I mean, he's running in the rain and like these ruins.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, the opening scene with the mother, or the opening scene when he gets the stone.
The opening scene when he gets the stone.
Because the opening
very serious.
Oh, it's so serious, and it's like so emotional. And then I get that it goes into a joke, but it's like that sets it. Talk about like a culture shock. I know this is probably more of the plot, but visually a tonal shift. It's really cool. And then sound. I don't think you could have anything better. The soundtrack fits perfectly, and it even shaped the way they did future movies, don't you think?
Oh, the sounds were great. The soundtrack to this day is fantastic. I thought every song choice for each scene fitted well. One of my favorite is on the ship when they're escaping and they play "If You Like Coladas." Fantastic. Never would have thought that should have been in like some sort of action scene or escape artist scene, but it played out pretty well.
It all fits so perfectly. So, sound and visuals, 1 to 20. Would you give it?
20.
Yeah, if there was any other score, it would be wrong. It's only a 20. It has to be. I know where we're going on this one, but fun factor. There is just scene after scene that have me laughing and smiling and like emotionally invested in these like blue alien and a talking tree and a talking raccoon.
A vulgar raccoon. Yep.
Yeah. Like a mean raccoon
who doesn't want to be hugged, but just does want to be hugged.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's just like it's just awesome.
That group of misfits. They're cool. I mean, you don't get much cooler than really Star-Lord.
Yeah, really. The thing is, like, he's like an idiot, but also totally has it figured out. Like, that's one thing that they did perfectly. That first fight where they meet Gamora, you're like, you put it together. You see everybody. Instead, it's classic show don't tell. Everybody knows what they're doing. They're all excellent fighters, and they're just fighting each other. It's so good
in their own style, which is nice.
Yes,
you could tell that Gamora is like a very well trained assassin. You could tell like how Groot and Rocket are just kind of mercenaries, almost bounty hunters.
Anything else you want to touch base on for fun factor?
Other than just the entire movie. I mean, without like really getting into the nitty gritty of each scene, it was all just fun. I don't think I've ever had that much fun at the movies, watching a movie. You know what?
I have to agree. I don't know of any movie, especially because I don't know of any movie that has this kind of range of action, like good action scenes, like legitimately good, and then legitimately funny stuff that's happening. I can't think of anything that has anything like that in terms of kind of range. So fun factor, 1 to 20, what did you give it?
The only score to give, 20.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 22. Obviously, it's like near perfect. We've been the superhero hierarchy. I'm Nathan.
I've been Chris.